totally sleep deprived. I start hallucinating.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I start seeing monkeys running across the road. I look to my right, and the snow-covered trees turn into abominable snowmen.
All right, check. My levels are good.
Checkity. 1, 2, 3. Checkity. Oh, am I clipping? Check.
Nope.
182. Okay, check.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Right on.
My name is Nolyn Falcon. I am a local musician, I would say, and creative type dude. And my first car was a 1990 Ford Escort GT, which stands for Gran Turismo.
No one likes to be thought of as helpless. But there is always this thought in the back of your mind, what happens if I'm alone and my car breaks down? Here's some peace of mind. The Escort from Ford. It's so reliable, so dependable. It's been the best-selling car in the world for the last 6 years. I have to tell you, it's very comforting traveling with an Escort.
Yeah, so that's pretty hardcore. It had the spoiler on the back. And what's really interesting about my first car is that it came with a decal on the back window that said Shoop. And for all
you didn't add that?
No, that wasn't me. It came that way. That was part of the appeal. But yeah, some of the kids may not know what a Shoop is. And I'm still not sure what a Shoop is now that I think about it.
I'm not either. I was going to ask.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what a Shoop. I know it's a verb, but that's all I really know about it. But
TLC had a song called Shoop.
No, it was Salt and Pepper.
Pardon.
Very close. But yeah. So Salt and Pepper had a hit song called Shoop back in whatever, mid-90s.
Shoop-a-loop.
Shoop-a-loop, shoot-a-doop, shoop-a-doopy-doopy-doop. Yep. Yeah, back when you could just have one-word choruses and that somehow worked.
Yeah. Little Dr. Seuss.
Yep, so that was the Shoopmobile. And of course, Shoopmobile is the natural name for a car with Shoop on the back of it.
Yeah.
I want to shoot, baby, shoot.
Where'd you get this car from?
I got it from my sister in 97. So I was basically taking the bus through half my junior year in high school, riding the bus or getting rides from my mom or whatever, and got this car from my sister, which the part I can't remember or figure out is how did I actually buy it from her when I'm 17? I have no money. But I think it was a promise of being able to pay her with some money I was getting when I turned 18.
Oh, sure.
So I was like, kind of one of those deals, like, as soon as I get this check when I turn 18, I'm going to buy this from you.
Did you ever fulfill that promise?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I gave that to her and got this car. So, so I got it from my sister, who got it from somebody in Minot, and it had seen some action before I got it. My sister just told me yesterday, or a couple days ago, for Thanksgiving, she told me the story of how she took it out to California, and she was with some of her, Mexican friends, and decided, I want to see where they shot the, Gin and Juice music video for Snoop Dogg. And and she's asking locals, like, where was that shot? It's like, that's in Compton. You want to go there? Yeah, okay. So they drive this car with her and her Mexican friends.
Hell yeah.
Decide to go to Compton. And I guess that was sort of a bad idea.
At the time,
because, there's just kind of like counterculture, war type stuff between. Anyways, I don't know all the gang significance of all that stuff, but going into the hood, all these young, females decided to drive into the hood and just take a look around. Within not very long, they were being shot at. And she, hightailed it to get out of there and ended up crashing into somebody, and the whole thing kind of turned into a mess. But somehow the Shoopmobile made it back to North Dakota, and she my sister decided she didn't want to go to Cali anymore. So
Understandable.
yeah, it's funny because that was the first trip to Cali that it made, but it made at least 2 more trips to Cali. And I'll get into that.
Okay. So you get this car, and it's already been blessed by the gangsters, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it survived some sort of test, some coming of age, rights test of some kind. Yeah, it had seen some action for sure.
Hey, yeah, I want to shoot, baby, shoot.
So in '97, you get this. What are you kind of doing at the time?
Going to high school, Mandan High, and the big deal with this car is that it had a cassette, player.
Yeah.
So this is like, I had my cassette player at home or whatever, but when you get your first car, the thing that really stands out is like the music is mine now. This is part of the identity of the car. Is what am I playing in this car? What cassettes am I going to have? So then it's like, okay, so I need to get to my CD player and start making cassette mixtapes and all this stuff. And so it becomes a whole thing where it's like, I need to figure out what I'm going to be listening to in this car. I'm going to be spending so much time in this car. So you kind of obsess about like, what am I going to do? So I started ripping like all the Zeppelin I had between me and my friends, Beatles, Pantera, Nirvana, Soundgarden. And so one of my favorite cassettes was I had Pantera's Far Beyond Driven on one side of this cassette, and on the other side I had Mozart's Requiem. So I could just kind of flip those back and forth and just have that contrast. As hard as you can go to as like melancholy as you can go. And it was just so dang cool at the time. But yeah, so the cassette, it was just that's all I remember is just going from cassette to cassette and listening to the same albums on repeat over and over and over, Houses of the Holy and Revolver and just like nonstop listening to these albums. And it's funny because I kind of stopped listening to Nirvana and Zeppelin and stuff after high school because I had literally listened to each album 100 times or more, and that's a lot. But,
did you have a cassette case?
Like for holding everything together. I don't remember. Basically any form of organization you think I might have, I didn't have.
Right. Yeah. Just tossing tapes left and right, kind of
total chaos.
Somewhere on the seat, somewhere on the floor.
I probably crushed 3 or 4 just getting into my vehicle. Kind of. That's kind of how I was. Yeah.
I found a Walkman at a garage sale a couple months ago, and so I've been jamming out some tapes here and there.
What are Walkmans going for on like Amazon these days?
That I don't know. I could probably resell it, but yeah, it was in its package, brand new, and the headset and everything. But not the AM, FM radio. I think those ones go for a little more. But yeah, just straight up cassette player. Pretty badass.
Yeah. No, I definitely didn't have any sort of organization with that. I think I probably had everything in the console in the middle and just like dug out the cassette that I wanted.
And then, yeah, I love hearing people's mixtapes too and what they're making.
I never did song by song because I was way into albums. So it was always like, I want to listen to this thing from beginning to end kind of a deal, which is interesting because like, yeah, I've just always been obsessed with the idea of these concept albums and albums standing on their own as this great piece of art, and so it was always about what album am I listening to, not what song,
Your friend John was on here a few weeks back.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And he was talking about kind of the same thing. Like he didn't do mixed tapes, but albums and what he could fit on a album. Like if you had to flip it to the other side, what could fit on there, and if it couldn't fit, maybe you're going to take off one song.
Yeah, I never did that. It was basically I'd get to the end of the album and whatever got cut off because I didn't have the patience, I guess, to cut out a bad song.
Sure.
Like one that's like I could skip that song. I never really did that. He was always good about trying to make sure he was getting max value out of each side. I was just like, I'd start my dub from my CD to a cassette and then go do something else. And when it was done, and then I'd pop it into my.
Do you ever have like a shitty tape cassette that like you never listened to, but like needed something to record on, and then you could just pop out those tabs and record over a cassette.
Right. There was definitely an abundance of cassettes around the house. And so I probably dubbed over some like Garth Brooks or something at some point, where I was just like, I need the tape. But John and I both were really good about, if we ever got extra money, it was to buy a bunch of cassettes. Like, not only because we were, using them to make our tapes, but we were also recording our 4-track album and all this. We were recording on 4-track cassette. So it was just, those were worth their weight in gold as far as like cassettes go. So we never had a shortage of, we'd try to outdo each other with the size of the tape package we could buy, where it's like, yeah, I got, 50 cassettes in this, and then it's like 90 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever the length of them were at the time.
You and John were in a band called Dreblo's Disciples. I think I have your tape somewhere in this box here.
Nice.
But
yes.
Like that was recorded on a 4-track.
Yep, that was recorded on a Tascam Porta Studio. I want to say it was the 001 or 007. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that was back in the days where you would record on the first 3 tracks. So let's say it would be bass and drums and guitar, rhythm guitars, and then you would bounce that onto the 4th track. So you have to pre-mix those 3 tracks. Mix them how you want them to sound on the album, and then record them onto the 4th track, and then you can erase the first 3 tracks, and then you can record over those. So that's how you get more tracks out of that process, and then you do your vocals last and all that kind of stuff. Of course, the quality degrades as the more you do that.
Sure,
but yeah, and then mixing was a live experience where you'd be playing back, John would be on one set of faders, I'd be on another set of faders, and depending on what part and section, we'd be both kind of riding that as it's being recorded out to a master cassette for our quote unquote master. But yeah, those were the days. Our first album, I guess, or our only album, came out in whatever that was, 96, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tape is awesome though.
Thanks, man.
I still have it, and then converted it to CD and spread that as much as I could.
I wish we wouldn't have called it Plastic Leg. Now looking back on it, I don't know. I think we were just into kind of like, if it was weird and avant-garde and didn't make sense, similar to Nirvana lyrics. It's just like, let's just have something that makes no sense.
Sure.
And just call it the album name. Of course, we had it in sign language or whatever. So it's like, it was a quest for people who bought the album to try to figure out what this actually meant. And I think there's only a couple of people who kind of cracked the code, quote unquote, as far as what the album was called. Because I wouldn't have gone through the effort of trying to figure it out personally.
Right.
If it were me. No.
What exactly is it that makes a Ford Escort GT so much fun? Well, let's start with its powerful 16-valve dual overhead cam engine. It's a blast. A scream. It really cooks. Then there's Escort GT's great looks. The kind that'll turn more heads than a screwdriver. Speaking of turns, that's where Escort GT's nimble sport suspension comes in. We're talking road hugging. So ask yourself, isn't it time for a little fun? Yes! And have you driven a Ford lately?
When I got it, it was only 7 years old, which, these days it's hard to find an affordable car that's less than or newer than 15 years old or whatever, so that was a relatively newish car at the time. So it had some juice left in it. Of course, I didn't ever do anything like check the oil or, just a classic, like, kid in high school just didn't know how to take care of a vehicle and just like, you just drive it until it dies. And that's exactly what I did.
Some gin and juice.
Yeah, some gin and juice. That's right. I'll tell just a quick story. Basically, I was telling you over text or whatever that, when you asked me if I had a story about my first car, for whatever reason, I just couldn't think about, cars have no significance for me in my memory for whatever reason. It's not about the objects, it's about the people or the experiences or whatever. So I just had the hardest time thinking about what does a car even matter? And I got really philosophical. I didn't need to do any of that, by the way. But then I started thinking of like the car as the thread of my life during these few years and where it took me. And yeah, it's life's all about the journey, all these things. So anyways, it was, I want to say, late 1997. I decided I wanted to play in a chess tournament in Grafton, North Dakota. So I go, it's on a Saturday, and I had school the day before, of course, but I decided I was going to prepare for this tournament. So I'm studying my chess moves until, 1, 2 in the morning. And I had to get on the road by like 4 in the morning, to be able to get to Grafton by the time the tournament started at 8 p.m. or whatever. Because Grafton's like four some hours away from Bismarck. So not a great idea to get 2 hours of sleep and then drive 4 hours and then play 8 hours of chess.
I wouldn't think, yeah.
But that's what I did. And so I played 8 hours of chess, or 12 hours or whatever. No, I guess, it must have been like 10 hours of chess or something in Grafton. And game to game, just like every game going down to the wire, going down to the time, I was always the last person playing with my opponent or whatever. And needless to say, I didn't do very well in that tournament, which is not the point. But I was with my brother, Chad, and he came with, and we came back through Fargo. And this is before we had cell phones. We had calling cards, if we even had anything, where it's like you could go to a payphone, use your calling card, and that's how you could call, your mom or whatever. So I think the plan was to just go to the tournament, play it, drive back. Well, we happened to get a crazy ice storm blizzard thing.
Oh, of course.
And we tried to figure out a situation in Fargo. It wasn't looking good. So we're like, okay, we'll just go back. So they closed the interstate like literally 5 minutes after we got on it. So, and then I'm driving through, fog and whatever. And all I see are, probably 50, 60 vehicles in the, in the ditch. Man. And it just, no one can stay on the road. It's just so slippery. And I'm just like, well,
we're just going to truck on through.
I don't have an option. I don't have any money.
Sure.
I probably spent my last $50, $60 in gas just to get there. I wasn't sure if I'd have enough gas to get home. It was kind of one of those deals. It's like, we can't really stop anywhere. It's like, we just got to go. Yeah. So anyways, it's totally sleep deprived. I start hallucinating.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I start seeing monkeys running across the road. I look to my right, and the snow-covered trees turned into abominable snowmen that were like, or yetis or whatever, that were just like huge lumbering things that were just walking slowly. I was at one point, my brother like basically punches me because I had fallen asleep. I'm doing like 5 miles an hour on the interstate, but we're the only people on there, really. So, because no one's crazy enough to do that. Anyways. Fast forward, it took, I want to say, close to 8 hours to get home or something like that. It was the longest trip from Fargo to Bismarck ever because, the visibility was essentially zero. You just had to go fast enough to make sure you're on the road. And it became more about feel than watching where you're going. It's just like, does it feel like I'm on the road? It's like, I think, it still does. Or you're measuring the angle of the car. Like, if I start feeling like I'm tilting right, that's probably the ditch. So just sit, Anyways, get back and finally get home. The sun had come up by then, and I walked through the door of my trailer where I lived in with my mom in Mandan. And my girlfriend at the time was there, and everyone's crying, just like, I can't believe you guys. Oh, we were so worried. Obviously, I didn't, just no checking in. All they knew is the interstate was closed. But as far as they're all concerned, we're all dead for sure. Like
right,
100%,
8 hours 100% of silence.
Yeah,
like,
100% we're dead. Everyone, that's what they were thinking. We got through it, and then that's when I found out that a friend, Chris Chase, had died. I don't know if you remember.
That was then.
That was then.
Okay.
Yep. So Chris Chase was a local musician, absolutely phenomenal, just a powerhouse of a human being that I remember. I looked up to him so much, musically. I thought he was the coolest thing going on. His songwriting style, his singing. He's multi-instrumentalist. He was just so awesome. And I had gotten to know him briefly that year, played a show here or there with him, got to hang out a few times. And I was just kind of like, can't wait to get to know this guy, And then I just find out that he had died. And so that was devastating. Fast forward to a benefit, I guess, for his family, that we were trying to kind of do something nice for the family and put a show on in honor of him, basically. That was at I want to say it was the AmVets in Mandan. Does that sound right? The one that was across from Joker's, like whatever that is. Is that an AmVets?
Oh,
or VFW?
Across from Joker's.
Yeah. Or somewhere in that neighborhood was.
Well, there was Midtowner, Stadthaus.
It was like one of the VFWs, or anyways, one of the animals.
Yeah.
For the veterans, kind of a thing. But we played a show in the basement there. It was Drevel's Disciples. I want to say like maybe Drift was on that.
Okay.
I can't remember who else. John would remember better than me.
Yeah.
But that was a big deal. That show was a big deal. But long story short with that is that...
Oh, yeah. No, you're totally right. It was down the street, and I can't remember what the place was. Yeah, I was there.
You were at that show.
Yeah. It was downstairs on a corner of something. I don't remember what that building was, but that's the only time I remember being at a show there.
It was probably the first and last show.
Okay.
There, probably.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, there's probably some nonsense foolery that turned them off of having shows there.
Sure.
High risk, no reward, basically letting kids have a show there,
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But yeah, that was a big deal. But that's where I had met a girl that would eventually become my girlfriend. So we hit it off. Everything's going really well. I graduate high school in 98. I get a tattoo. I move out immediately in the same day, get a tattoo, move out of the house, move in with her at the Mason building.
Oh, yeah. Because
Yep.
you're a rock star. All the local rockers lived at the Mason.
I feel like everybody, it seems like, lived at the Mason building or had, at least crashed there
Yeah,
for a while.
I've crashed there.
Yeah. Such an iconic spot in Bismarck, and everyone's got a story about the Mason building. Anyways, so I moved. Number 6 was the apartment.
Okay.
So, anyways, but we had such a great.
Did you guys have one of those Murphy beds?
Yep.
Damn.
Absolutely. Murphy bed.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. We would write songs together. We had this like great chemistry, magic kind of stuff with the music, and it's just like all, love of my life, all this kind of stuff. Felt like just unstoppable. Like, this is the path I'm on. This is amazing. And then she decided to go to college in California in Humboldt County. And I was like, okay, well, I've got to finish up my job here or finish up some things in Bismarck, and I'm going to meet you out there as soon as I do that. Very naive to let your girlfriend go off to college.
Oh, sure.
And think that things are going to work out.
Yeah.
You go off, honey, to college, and and I'll be there eventually. And very naive to think that was going to work out. But anyway, so fast forward to February of 99. I get the call. We did the long distance thing for a while, and then she broke up with me on Valentine's Day.
Oh.
Yeah. After not returning calls for a week, I kind of knew something was up by that point. And then I heard from her, and it was devastating, of course. At the time, I was just kind of like beside myself. I was so beside myself that I kind of stewed about it for months, really just like kind of ruminated about this. Like, how could this happen? What happened? Who is this guy? Like, what is that? And eventually I decided I needed closure. So I'm like, I need to go to California.
Oh,
and
right.
I need to like see this guy.
This is a movie.
Yeah. I'm like, I need to meet this guy. I need to see what's going on here. And so I did. So I just got in a car.
Did you bring any bros or?
I brought my brother Chad,
Nice.
and we went out. We went out to Humboldt County, California.
Road trip.
Arcata, and so yeah, we had a road trip, and no one ever spent money on hotels. Why would you ever do that when you could just drive 24 hours straight, which is what we did. You know,
you don't have the cash.
It's like, all right, we got. I scraped up $200. That's enough to get to Cali and back. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're not really thinking about that kind of thing. But so we got out there. I had my, got to hang out, got to meet the guy, everything. From his perspective, he must have thought that was super weird. Like, what? Your psycho ex has to drive all the way here? This is freaky, whatever, And I was just, I just needed to see it, and then I could move on. And that's exactly what ended up happening. I, got to meet him. It's a human, not an enemy. Everything. All of that was fine, but I picked up some of the local exotic flowers that were available in California.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Decided to bring some of that back to Bismarck, and got pulled over. Pulled over in Montana for going, which is crazy because in Montana, I don't think there was even a speed limit.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
in Montana.
I thought Montana got rid of it for a period.
Yeah.
Where you could just fly, like if you wanted to go 100, you could.
So I don't even know why I got pulled over, but basically it turned out to be just a shakeout.
Okay.
So the cop was just like, I don't even know what it was, a blinker, whatever it was, but I had these exotic flowers with me that I didn't want him to find because I didn't, they were very important, and so I was just like, please God, don't search this car. And he's just like, basically, whatever, this and that. Tell you what, you give me this much cash, and I'll let you go. That's what it was. It's just shady.
That's a total shakedown.
Total, like a literal shakeout. And I'm just like, yes, of course,
sure,
yeah, take the money. Whatever I had, it was probably like not even $100. At that point, and made it back to Bismarck literally on fumes. My car was dying as I got to the gas station in Bismarck. I think I kept $20 or whatever to be able to fill up if I needed to, or something like that. But yeah, that was getting back to Bismarck, and I get back to my place at the Mason Building, and there's a message on my answering machine from Ben Suki, and it was, "Hey Noel, we got a gig opening for Vanilla Ice tomorrow. Call me back." I'm like, what? I was like, what? This is insane. So yeah, I called back, and yeah, sure enough, the Funky Arabs, which is the band that I was in with Ben Suki, Cameron Ali, Eric Hansen, somehow got a gig to open for Vanilla Ice as he rebranded to, I don't even know I think it was still Vanilla Ice, or maybe it was
still Vanilla Ice, but doing like new metal.
Yeah, new metal. So there was, all I remember was the loudest, fartiest sound I've ever heard in my life.
It was farty.
It was like they had 2 6-string bass players, 2 keyboardists, 2 7-string guitar players. And it's just basically, he was like, how low can everybody play at the same time? And of course it sounded like you would think it would. It was just, and then he would scream over the top of it. He was trying to like rebrand into this hard, whatever, the hard metal thing that was kind of happening. Yeah. Metal rap thing that was happening at the time. And anyways, so no, we didn't open for them. They opened for us, which is really strange. I think they just wanted the earlier slot for whatever reason, just get their thing going. Right. And then we played afterwards.
But this was at Hotel Bismarck.
The Hotel Bismarck. And in Bismarck. And so they finished their set, which was just, like I said, total sludge. Couldn't hear anything. Just vibrations, basically, is all it was. And I don't think they were really that good of a band or anything either. It's just kind of like who he was able to put together. It was just noise. It was just noise.
Yeah. But for all of us, we're like, wait, Vanilla Ice? The guy who did Ice Ice Baby is now doing rock metal? That was crazy. Like rap, rock, metal. Yeah, it was goofy as all hell. And it sounded like dog shit. But it was still cool to see him come to our Rob Van Winkle.
Yeah, Yes. So they play their set, and then it's time for us to go up and play our set. And I'll never forget that it was, I think there was a few hundred people there, 300-400 people, maybe even more. Mm-hmm. It was a big show, and we get up to do our set. And I think most of the people didn't even realize that we were a local band. They just thought whatever.
Oh yeah.
But that's the only time that people have like been screaming like we were the Beatles or something. You know? And there's like, people like trying to grab me and all that kind of stuff when I'm playing on stage. And it's just like, this is wild. That was a really cool experience. And of course, after all of that was done, I decided to, I gotta slip some of these exotic flowers to Rob Van Winkle. Like I gotta say I did that. So I did, and he graciously accepted my gift, and then I never saw him again.
Nice.
And pretty wild to think about that being the case at that time. But so I got my closure. I came back, had this 15 minutes of fame sort of moment where it just felt like it couldn't get any better after everything that I'd gone through. Mm-hmm. And
hell yeah, that's cool as hell.
Well, it was cool. And then fast forward to that summer of '99. It was probably a couple of months after the Cali trip. I was driving in the car, and I was meaning to get around to taking the cooler out of the back of my vehicle from the Cali trip, but it had been sitting there for a couple of months in 90 to 100 degree heat.
Okay. You still had
I still had the cooler. I had been meaning to empty it, clean it, all of that. Well, sometimes
we get pretty humid up here. Yeah.
Yeah. Life sometimes just reckons with you. So I hit a bump going too fast, kind of a deal. It was like a dip going too fast, and the cooler exploded.
Oh my gosh.
Basically, covering, the back of my head, the windows, the seats, everything. And it was the foulest scent you ever, basically, whatever, bologna and ice and or whatever, melted ice. Just bacteria, a cesspool basically exploded in my car at the time. And it was, I immediately started gagging, almost throwing up. I had to pull off over the road, get out, collect myself, just like, oh, it was so rancid. And then I spent the rest of the day trying to clean that up. And that's just kind of a bonus.
Did that
story.
smell ever leave the car?
No, and I'm glad that it wasn't much longer after that. Maybe it was another year or so that I had the vehicle, but there was always some scent of it there.
Yeah.
I would have had to pay top dollar to try to get it actually descentified. But so
that's nasty.
Yeah, and then the sad ending to that car was that it died. It bled out in the Walmart parking lot of in Williston.
Oh,
so, I think it was the cam seal had broken or something, which is, I want to say, related to the transmission fluid, something like that. And so it just bled out, and then at that time it's just like, what? It's going to cost $1,500 to fix this? No,
not worth it at a certain point.
I will find a $500 car that will replace this, and I did exactly that. Yeah. Whoops.
So what was the $500 car that you replaced it with?
It was a Hyundai Scoop, which belonged to 1991 Hyundai Scoop.
Scoop.
Yep, or S-Coupe, I don't know.
Okay.
Which belonged to Mike Reitz, actually.
Oh,
It was his old car. Yeah. So it was a series of sporty cars. I think that was his, or maybe it was the Honda Accord. One of those two was his, but it was like a 91 Honda Accord white and a 91 Hyundai Scoop, also white. So I had basically sporty white cars for a decade of my life or something like that I drove them before I moved into the age of minivans. And then I had a series of 3 different minivans for practical reasons, to be able to put it all in my PA and gear and everything, and
of
fit
course.
everything and fit people, and now I've been carless for a few years. So yeah.
Oh, are you like Roger? You ride a bike or?
No, I just don't leave the house. Pretty much.
I wanna shoot.
Oh, have you driven new Escort GT? GT of the family. Now we call your kind attention to the TR-type suspension. Excitement hasn't been neglected, cause this unit's fuel injected. 5 speed, never loud, never rude. Got a winning attitude. Have you driven new Escort GT? Have you driven a Ford lately?
Baby, shoot.
That summer of 98, after I moved out, I kind of forgot to just talk about kind of what life was like then, because I feel like that's an important part of the story is just that life was, you feel on top of the world. You have this freedom of moving out of the parents' house. You got your own place. That's just such a magical feeling at the time. There's nothing that beats that first, like, this is my place. There's no rules here. There's no bedtimes. I can smoke cigarettes in here. I can do whatever I want in here. That's just such a powerful feeling. Of course, but then you're like, oh yeah, I also have to work now. And so I think my first job right out of high school was at Taco John's.
Yeah.
And that was fun. I don't think I lasted more than a couple of months there, probably just because I was
Eating all the tacos.
well. There's that, and I was just thinking of like I spent a lot of time in the basement. When they'd have you break down boxes or whatever,
Sure.
in the is one of the tasks, which I was like, yes, can I do that? Can that be the only thing that I do? Because I don't have to deal with customers. That was my first realization that I didn't want to really be around people when I was working. I was like, oh, I really just love being in the basement. If I can just be even if I could just stand in the cooler all day, that's completely fine with me. As long as I don't have to be around people. But yeah, I would be down in the basement like Bruce Lee punching the boxes and stuff, and just like having a blast, just karate kicking boxes, and eventually
I did that. We had a pizza. I worked at a pizza place, and one of the things that kind of sucked at first was putting together the pizza boxes, but after a bit, you realize it was so much better than dealing with the customers or making the pizza or whatnot. So when it was slow, we would just hang out in the back and just put together all these pizza boxes.
Right.
And if we had a break, we would like Bruce Lee the shit out of them, like build like a stack and just knock them down.
Yeah.
One guy had a knife, so we would use the boxes as basically a dart board and just throw knives at the pizza boxes.
Wow. I wish I would have thought to bring a knife to work and do that and do stuff like that. But eventually I think I got busted of just like, why were you down there so long? Just like, I was just breaking out boxes. I'm doing what you told me, we needed you up here.
Yeah, you gotta
I was like,
milk it.
oh, well, so that didn't work out. But then I ended up over at Sykes. I don't know if you ever worked at, did you work at Sykes?
No, I didn't. A lot of people did though.
Yeah. It was just, they were kind of the, big companies decide to open up call centers in Midwest because they can underpay everybody to do kind of high level jobs. They'll provide a 2-day training on how, 3-day training or something on how to fix computers or whatever it is. Stuff that, the real people working these jobs of like technical support and stuff were probably, college graduates and whatever. And, but they're like, oh, we'll just set up this place in North Dakota, pay people essentially a little bit over minimum wage, which I think at the time you were making like $9.50 at Sykes or something, which was $9.50 an hour, which was like pretty big upgrade from the minimum wage of $5.25 or whatever it was at Taco John's. So it's like, wow, that's big money. So yeah, that whole summer of 98 working there, made some really great friends, had a really great time. The ritual was, get up, admire my exotic flowers, go to work, and come home, just like deal with people's problems on their computers all day, and then come home, throw on some Beastie Boys, a Rage Against the Machine, have my own little dance party, admire my exotic flowers, watch South Park, put on a George Carlin video. That was just the vibe of that whole summer, was just working a bit and then just having this freedom to do whatever and enjoy art in many different forms. And that's really what it was all about. And playing shows, of course. I was playing with the Funky Arabs and playing with Drevelos every once in a while. And just being out on my own as an artist, musician guy, living the dream. And in some ways, I don't know if it ever really gets better than that. You know what I mean? It seems like that burst of freedom sort of subsides and reality sets in and responsibilities kick in. And it's just like, it just doesn't keep that magic forever. And that's fine. It's not like life gets worse or anything, but I'm just saying that there's really something special about that life as an open road moment that you have after high school, where it's just like, I'm on my own, and who knows what's going to happen, but isn't it great? Isn't it exciting? You know?
Hey, yeah, I want to shoot, baby, shoot.
Any advice you'd give to somebody getting their first car or first apartment?
With the first car, I would say the most important advice is just learn a little bit of the preventative maintenance stuff.
Yeah.
Know when to check your tire pressure, know when to check your oil, all these different things that, you know, maybe you had a better, I'm not going to say better upbringing, but like more qualified parents to teach you about car stuff in particular, like, then you might already know this kind of thing, but I didn't know anything. And then never had, you know, that sort of like, make sure you do this, and that with your car. So I think it's just not sexy, you know, like preventative maintenance on your vehicle when you're 18 is just the least sexy thing you could ever think about. That's the last thing you're going to think about. Who's thinking about that? Yeah. You know? And so, but I mean, so I guess it sounds kind of old manish to say, you know, use preventative maintenance to help your car last longer.
That's kind of the thing, though. You're just like living in the now, in the moment, and tomorrow is just tomorrow. Like, I'll deal with it then or next week or whatever. But yeah,
exactly. There's just no time limit. So yeah, that would be my advice. And the other advice would be to take the road trips, man. Like, do it, gather some friends, gather some funds, and have an adventure.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of not having a plan or whatever. You guys will figure it out. Don't be afraid to meet people along the way. I don't know. It's easy to say now but maybe the world isn't as safe of a place as it was when I was 18. You know, it's hard to say.
Hey, yeah, I want to shoot, baby, shoot.
Yeah, rip the Shoopmobile. It was a great car. It was a beautiful car. It got me through the most formative years of my life, I would have to say. More so than childhood, more so than anything. It was just those first few years after high school, or through the last part of high school and beyond a couple of years, where I ended up going to Williston and moving there in 2001 to play, to get to know my dad better. And then we played in a country band together for a couple of years there. And
hell yeah.
And then moved back to Bismarck and played music with my brother at the coffee shops around town. And that's when I met Roger, actually. Because we were looking for a percussionist to play with us, and we found Roger. And then we went and checked out a show down at AmVets. I don't know if you were at that show where Roost played. It was their last show at AmVets in Bismarck. This would have been in 2003, maybe 2002. Might have been late 2002, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it was late 2003. Roger would know. But yeah, Roost, the reggae band, was putting on their last show, and me and my brother showed up for that. Roger was sitting in, Joe McCauley, Ira Roberson.
Yeah.
Everyone from Gypsy Foot was there on stage at one point, where we just decided to jam together, and it's pretty crazy how that launched a whole new chapter of life after all that.
Yeah, it really does.
But that was post Shoopmobile, so not relevant. Don't use it. None of that matters. Anyways. Man, I could sit and talk about the old days for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah,
man.
I think we could.
But
Well, thank you, my guy.
yes, thank you for having me. I love the concept of this. I think it's a fascinating way to learn about people's stories without
Yes.
saying, "Tell us your life story." No. And I was wondering, have you heard the song My First Car? Have you heard of this?
I don't think so.
It's a song by Wolfpack. You should check it out.
Okay.
My First Car. It's just a great jam. The video for it's really sweet.
Yeah.
You'd like it. I mean, I don't know. I definitely was reminded of it,
Yeah,
when I heard
I'll
about
look
your
that up.
podcast. You got to check out My First Car. It's good stuff.
I wanna shoot,